It's Monday night. It's January 24th, 2023. Episode 349 of the Tan and J-Man Show is live on the ISC Sports Network, on the ISC Sports Network YouTube page, on their Twitter, or should I say X page, and on the Tan and J-Man Show Facebook page. What's going on, J-Man? What do you think of Elon Musk rebranding Twitter?
Stupid.
Yep.
Very stupid. And it sounds like they're not going to be able to get a patent for it, any of this, or not a patent, but a trademark for it, because I read a whole thing about how the X thing's not going to work for Twitter. So
It's not gonna.
Seems like old Elon spent billions upon billions of dollars just to, I don't get it, and I'm bored with him. And I'm not going to call it X. I'm going to call it Twitter. It's going to be Twitter forever.
Well, the weird thing is, so you go on the mobile app today, right, for Twitter. It's Twitter. Looks like the normal layout. You go on the desktop app or desktop version of Twitter, which I have up here. It's already redesigned with an X in the left-hand corner.
Yep. I see that as well, because I have it up on my desktop as well. And that's the first time I've seen it. So it'll only be a matter of time probably until our phones update that it'll be X. So it's stupid. It's been, Twitter for how many years now? 16 years, something like that.
Yeah, since 2006, Twitter launched.
17 years.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
I just don't understand why, unless it's broke, don't fix it. It's such a big time brand. I just don't understand it. I just think it's dumb. I mean, there's some rebranding in the past that we've seen of companies that I think's, appropriate, but I don't get it. Don't get it at all. Bugs me.
They're trying to make it into this whole like media conglomerate sort of deal, and I'm just sitting here like, I just want to tweet. Just let me tweet. Let me see tweets. Let me get like verified factual information from people who you don't have to pay $8. And it seems like it's had the opposite effect. The people with checkmark pay the $8, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So it's frustrating me.
Me too. And I know a lot of people don't like Twitter, but you and I enjoy it. That's where we got a lot of our news source, and we also don't like change. So
yeah, that is a good point. Elon's trying to make X a thing for years. He tried to make PayPal when he was the CEO of PayPal, X.com, back in 1999 or something like that. I ended up getting let go from there because of that. And there's been, SpaceX. So he has this fascination with the letter X.
Well, hopefully I'm not going to be getting an X for a wrong trivia answer tonight on Birdie or Bogey, which I'm assuming you have in the holster for me tonight. Thanks.
That was a very good segue there, T-Dog.
Thank you.
Monday night, last Monday, Shohei Ohtani became the 5th player since 2000 with 35 homers in their team's first 95 games, joining what 4 players to have hit 35 homers through the first 95 games. I will think up a hint to give you later because it's going to be a tough one. Obviously, you should get one of them. That's a pretty obvious one. 2 of these guys have records, like home run records. One's a World Series champ, and one is no longer in the league. There you go.
I think I have 2 of them.
2 for a par.
2 for a par. I think I can get a par out of this. I need it. I'm almost stroked down now. So
3 for a par.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes more sense. What am I gonna do? 3 for a birdie, 3 for a par, 4 for birdie. Yeah. All right.
Yep. Birdie Bogey is brought to you by Arlington Public House. Arlington Public House is upscale cuisine and cocktails with a casual atmosphere, located 703 Main Street in Rochester, Indiana, United States. It is.
You gotta get the zip code too.
Oh man, 46975. I do remember.
There you go. I was gonna say, yeah, good memory.
It is Wing Monday, dollar smoked wings, or $2 smoked whole wings, sorry, and $1 off domestic beers every Monday. Over the weekend, I saw this. Prime rib special was Saturday, July 21st and 22nd. I'm a big prime rib guy. Of course, I didn't make the trip down, but it looked phenomenal.
How many times a year do you eat prime rib, give or take?
Maybe once every couple years, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't eat it that much now. Now that I have a smoker, I might be able to smoke a prime rib. I don't know if that would work too well because it might make it a little dry. But yeah, it's for some reason, like I would much prefer to eat prime rib on Thanksgiving than turkey. So I might have to start a new month tradition of eating prime rib on Thanksgiving.
My uncle makes prime rib once in a while, so I
Bet that's
you
good.
know, and then I do have it at least once a year. My company Christmas party, we have prime rib there. So,
Yeah.
Yep. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. I haven't ate dinner yet, so
Oh man,
I'm pretty
I don't
hungry.
either. I'm gonna have to eat during the show. That's how hungry I am.
Go for it. Wouldn't be the first. I'm sure it wouldn't be the first. We've been doing this show. It's our 7th year. I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time one of us ate during the show.
There's a distinct memory I have our first year where we decided to sit down and do all 30 draft picks in the NBA of the first round, and you had golf league
Oh
that
yes,
night, and you were pounding a ham sandwich.
That's right.
We started the show. I don't know why
That's right.
that's a core memory I have.
Well, and then there was that one week
ago.
where we ordered Pizza Hut, and it showed up 10 minutes before the podcast went on the air.
Yeah, yeah. It took an hour and a half to get to us because we were getting a snowstorm.
Which we didn't eat it on the air, but I think we had major heartburn because we scarfed a couple pieces down right before the podcast.
Classic Tan and J Man.
Oh yeah, good times. Good times. All right, well let's do the segment we've been promising for the past few weeks and get it out of the way so that way the Tan and J Man Show Nation gets it. That's our Mount Rushmore of our favorite teams. And I should preface that it's since we've been watching and rooting for those teams. So for instance, Denver Broncos, John Elway's not on my Mount Rushmore because even though I remember him playing, I wasn't a Bronco fan at the time when I was 5 years old. So we do a lot of Mount Rushmore lists, but I feel like Mount Rushmore lists, no matter what it is, sports related, non-sports related, people change them almost every year.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's always a good topic for a podcast. So with that said, J-Man, why don't you kick us off with whichever team's going first for you?
Man, I feel like I want to do the Dolphins first.
I will do the Broncos right after the Dolphins, then.
I have 3 Hall of Famers on my list, so that made it pretty easy. Dan Marino, Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas. That was pretty easy. Pretty 3. And Zach Thomas gets inducted here whenever next week or whenever the Hall of Fame is. Now, the 4th guy, they've been so bad for so long that I was kind of racking my brain. Who could be that 4th guy on that list? Could be Cam Wake. But the guy I settled on, believe it or not, is Tyreek Hill. I think he is a top 4 player for the Miami Dolphins since I've been watching. I mean, he set franchise record and catches this year. I don't think he has a franchise record for receiving yards, but just the explosiveness he's added to the offense, and I'm expecting him to have a massive year this year too.
Any honorable mentions?
So, Cam Wake was probably the only other guy I could really think of. Ricky Williams was in the convo, believe it or not.
Sure,
his career was so short there. But they haven't had too many good players there since really I've been kind of following since about 97, 98, something like that. And I just saw the tail end of Marino's career. Yeah, and Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, 2 Hall of Famers on the same defense. It's amazing they didn't win as much as they did, but it comes down to who was playing quarterback. I mean, they had Jay Fiedler and was that like a Ray Lucas and Brian Gracie. It was a Gus Farrat. It was a terrible collection of quarterbacks, which is why they didn't win that much.
That would be a fun topic some week. Would be like positions. Mount Rushmore, like the Mount Rushmore for Miami Dolphin quarterbacks in your lifetime, running backs in your lifetime.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
That would be kind of fun. Yeah.
My Mount Rushmore for the Denver Broncos, three of these, like you, pretty easy, with two Hall of Famers, one future Hall of Famer. And the fourth was kind of difficult, but the three easy ones: Peyton Manning, Von Miller, and Champ Bailey. Pretty easy ones. Fourth one, I end up going with Demaryius Thomas.
Thought so.
Yeah, pretty good Denver Bronco. I mean, he will not make the NFL Hall of Fame. He might. I think he'll make the Broncos Ring of Fame someday. Gone too soon. Unfortunately, passed away 2 years ago. Honorable mention, I put Chris Harris Jr. He was a pretty darn good, steady cornerback for the Broncos for a handful number of years. Other than that, I'd be kind of grasping for straws. They've had a few okay running backs, but nobody stellar. You can make a case, I guess, for Emmanuel Sanders or an Eric Decker, even though he was more of a Peyton Manning product. They haven't had a consistent tight end. A lot of good defensive players. Just Aqib Talib is one maybe honorable mention, but I mean that.
What about Justin Simmons?
Yeah, he crossed my mind. I still think he needs another good year or two, but he's been pretty consistent since 2016. His teams just haven't been as good, so he doesn't get the notoriety. Pat Surtain Jr., if he continues on this pace, he could be on there in a couple of years, I would say. But, yeah, I'm pretty happy with those four.
Moving on to baseball here. The Cubs were they were more difficult than the Dolphins. But I would put Sammy Sosa for sure. I mean, set all these records. He's their all-time home run leader. They need to invite him back. Ricketts needs to swallow his pride and just invite him back, apologize.
Before it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. They can both apologize to each other. He needs to start coming around again because he was a massive part of the Chicago Cubs and a massive part in helping save baseball. Anthony Rizzo, for sure. He was their Derek Jeter. He was the captain of those good teams. So I would absolutely put him on. Johnny Lester is another one. He was their first big signing where you're like, oh man, they might be able to be pretty good. Just steady. One of the greatest postseason pitchers ever. You look at his numbers, and he's definitely the greatest postseason pitcher in Chicago Cubs history. This fourth one, it's still, honestly, I haven't decided yet who it's going to be. It's kind of a coin flip because do I go with the player I loved back when I was kind of growing up in high school, or do I go with the MVP, which is Chris Bryant? Chris Bryant was Rookie of the Year. He was MVP, had another 2 good years after that, but his peak was so short compared to this guy. And I'm going with Derek Lee.
I figured that.
He is my fourth guy. Love D. Lee. And he was good for 8-9 years with the Cubs and had the greatest offensive season a Cub has had since Sosa, obviously, his 2005 season. If he was on a halfway decent team, that team was so mediocre, he would have been an easy MVP that year. And I think he finished third behind Pujols and Andrew Jones, I believe, was second. But love D. Lee. I would put him as my fourth guy.
I had 3 of your 4 correct. I didn't have John Lester on the list, but it makes sense for all the reasons you gave and to put a pitcher on the list. Totally makes sense.
Yep.
The Yankees, Derek Jeter, you just mentioned him. He's a no-brainer, I think, on the list. Mariano Rivera, Sandman, played forever and was still, he could have played probably for another 2 years. I mean, he was still good his last season. CC Sabathia, I think he's a very underrated Yankee.
Oh.
I mean, he was just a birdie or an extra birdie or bogey answer not too long ago, or maybe he was part of the answer. I don't remember what week that was. And then fourth, I would have put Aaron Judge. I mean, some could say recency bias, but he's been pretty darn good ever since he got up to the Yankees, including last year. And look what his absence is due to the team this year. So,
yeah, it feels like you kind of have to have the single season American League home run record holder on that list.
Yeah, I'd feel weird not. Honorable mention, I really struggle with the honorable mention. Alex Rodriguez, I think, is one. Of course, the steroid thing kind of tarnishes anything. But other than that, a lot of good Yankees, but none that I even considered unseating these 4. I mean, Garrett Cole, if he continues doing what he's doing, maybe he's already tied with Louisiana Lightning for the most 10 or more strikeout games in franchise history, and he's only been a Yankee for a year and a half. So that's pretty good. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty good with those.
A guy that people forget about is Robbie Cano, mainly
It's
because
true.
of the steroid stuff. But he
It's true.
probably would have been on that list if it was not for the steroids, or close
It's
to it.
very true, and
Anyway,
I even forgot about him until you just
yeah,
mentioned him because he just tailed off after steroids. You know, he took the big
yeah.
deal with the Mariners. Never he got trouble steroids. Never very good. Mets didn't do
Yeah,
anything.
with the Mets. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
still hanging around last year with. I want to
is he
say
a twin?
He was a Brave for a little while, and then he was a Padre.
Okay,
I don't know if he was a twin or not. He might have
I don't
been.
know. I don't know why.
He bounced around a few times last year, but it was clear he was done
Mm-hmm.
in those years. But Illinois basketball. This was a fairly easy one. Darren Williams, D Brown, Io DeSumo, Kofi Coburn.
Udusumu got a nice contract extension by the
Yeah,
Bulls.
yeah, 3 years, 21 mil, gets to stay home. So I guess the Raptors wanted him pretty bad, but he decided to stay home. I don't blame him.
Yeah, that was seemed like a pretty easy list for you.
Yeah, the four consensus All Americans since I've been watching, and they will all have their number in the. I think they already do have their number in the rafters, but
I kind of went a similar route with Purdue basketball, but I do have a list of honorable mentions too because you can make an argument for a lot of these guys. But I went with, as my dog hawks on the floor, I went with Robbie Hummel. I mean, I will say Ethan Moore and Jawan Johnson are right there. I only picked one of the three; the other two are on my honorable mention. But I mean, Etwan Moore I think is the most undervalued of them all.
for sure,
And he was the most
yeah,
steady. But when Robbie was healthy, I think he was the best of the three as an overall basketball player. He just had two blow knees and came back and had a pretty darn good year in 2012. Caleb Swanigan, rest in peace. I mean, he was a beast for 2 years, especially his second year at Purdue. Consensus All American, Big Ten Player of the Year. Nobody rebounded like Biggie did those 2 years in the Big Ten. Carson Edwards, ultimate scorer at Purdue, got better each of his 3 years he was there. Single handedly helped them in the tournament, advance to the Elite Eight, and darn near within an eyelash of the Final Four. And you can yell at me for recency bias, but he's the National Player of the Year, Zach
yeah,
Edey, last year. Was
yeah,
dominant. Hopefully he can replicate that this year, but it's gonna be tough because he had a heck of a year last year. So yeah, not too hard. Three of those are pretty set in stone. I went back and forth with the Hummel one a little bit because I had Etwan Moore and Jawan Johnson on my honorable mention, and I also had Carl Landry on my honorable mention. He was only a Boilermaker for 2 years. Well, 2 years and plus 5 games, but he was really good. And unfortunately, he just played for a really bad team under Gene Cady, and then he helped Matt Painter get to his first NCAA tournament. I mean, he was the number one pick in the second round by the Seattle SuperSonics, and made a good NBA career for himself
yeah,
for the Rockets and Kings and Warriors and a few other places along the way I can't think of. So yeah,
yeah. My one honorable mention would have been Malcolm Hill, third
okay,
all-time leading scorer in school history. He was on some very mediocre teams that John Gross couldn't find him a point guard to help. His buddy Ken Nunn, if he would have just stayed, that's an easy tourney team. Well, he had to get kicked off the team, but he stuck it out, didn't complain, and he was really good. And people just they don't really value him as much as they should because the teams weren't very good. But he's the one player I felt bad never made an NCAA tournament, and he was like the first senior who was there all 4 years to not make a single NCAA tournament since like the 70s, so that made it even worse.
yeah.
I felt bad for him, but he would be my honorable mention.
Did you make an Illinois football one?
I do have one in my head.
Okay.
I'm so wishy-washy with Illinois football. When they're halfway decent, I'm like, yeah, like when they're not, I'm no, don't watch them, which is accurate. My top four guys, I'm basing off seasons.
Sure.
Top 4 seasons. Devin Witherspoon this year. I mean, he's top 5 pick. And credit Lovey for finding him because he got to school real late in August because he literally just qualified. He was like 150 pounds, but Lovey liked his attitude and his athleticism. And Bielema's staff came in and took him to a whole new level with Ryan Walters and Aaron Henry and Bielema himself. So he's on it. Whitney Merciless for sure. He had 16 and a half sacks. I think he led the nation in tackles for loss in 2011. I believe he was there. Unbelievable season. First round pick. Rashard Mendenhall, for sure. He's probably the best running back they've had. Definitely this century. First round pick as well. Fourth guy was tougher. They've had some first round picks like AJ Jenkins, but he was kind of a 1-year wonder. They had some just trash teams from like 2012 through last year. Juice Williams was a fan favorite, but I wouldn't call him one of the better ones. Maybe Aurelius Ben.
Well, that's a good one. I was going to guess Michael LaShore.
Mikel Shore was close. He had one really good year, and he had a 300-yard game in Wrigley Field against Northwestern. But Aurelius Ben, I mean, he was a kick returner and kicks back for touchdowns, had over 1,000 yards receiving, multiple years. Second round pick of the Jags. He was like the first 5-star guy that committed there and ended up going to a Rose Bowl. So.
Yeah, we were pretty young for this, but I'm sure older Illinois fans could say Kirk Hittner with the Sugar Bowl year.
Yeah, I don't really remember him.
Yeah, I don't even remember who else was on that team, to be honest. That was back in 2001. So.
No, Pierre Thomas had a really good NFL career, but I don't think he ever had 1,000 yards rushing there.
Brandon Lloyd?
Brandon Lloyd could be the other guy. He was great. He was not well liked at all by his teammates, supposedly. I literally just read a story about him the other day at Illinois that the other two starting receivers who played in the NFL, Greg Lewis and Aaron Moorhead, both absolutely despised Brandon Lloyd and would just play merciless pranks on him the entire time Lloyd was there. So
interesting. Yeah. My Purdue football one, another one where I had a lot of honorable mentions. First one on the Mount Rushmore is a no-brainer, Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. Second one, you can make a debate, but I went ahead and put Kyle Orton. I'm a big Kyle Orton fan, and when healthy, he was pretty darn good at Purdue. He just was banged up his junior year and senior year a little bit. Third one, Ryan Kerrigan. I think a lot of football fans forget how, outside of Purdue fans, forget how good he was because he didn't play on good teams. I mean, he was the 2010 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year over J.J. Watt. And then they both went in the first round. J.J. ended up having a better career, but Ryan still had a good career for the Redskins, now Commanders, and then played 1 year for the Eagles. And fourth, once again, could be recency bias, but David Bell. I know a lot of people would put Rondell Moore, but Rondell Moore had a phenomenal freshman year. Then he got banged up. David Bell was good all 3 years at Purdue, and he was, I just think, the better collegiate wide receiver than Rondell Moore was. We'll see which one's the better pro. Neither one of them's really come on yet in the pros. Rondell has 1 more year experience in the pros, but he's been hurt. David Bell didn't do much for the Browns last year. Honorable mention, school interception leader Stuart Swaggart. He was good all 4 years. He was a freshman All-American on the Rose Bowl team, and then led senior year the best Purdue defense I've ever seen to a Capital One Bowl. Anthony Spencer, I think Purdue people outside Purdue forget about how dominant he was his senior year. He was a first-round pick by the Dallas Cowboys. Ricardo Allen, once again, played on some not-so-good Purdue teams, but he was a playmaker and would change games, particularly his freshman year when they went 4-8. I think he had like 7 or 8 picks that year alone. Something stupid. Rondell Moore, of course, honorable mention, just basically based on his freshman year. And then Aiden O'Connell was honorable mention for me as well because he ended up having a pretty darn good college football career after being a walk-on.
Yeah.
So, and I had one more list here I'll fly through. Colorado Avalanche. I made a list for them. Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, Patrick Wall, those are easy. Stanley Cup guys from 96 and 01 and legends within the franchise. And I put Nathan McKinnon on the list. One of the best hockey players there is right now going. Honorable mention, the captain Gabriel Landeskog, who poor guy didn't play at all this year and is already out next year too with another knee surgery. He says he's not done for his career, but I don't know. He hasn't played since they won the Stanley Cup in 2021. Also, Cale McCarr, young phenom right now in the Colorado Avalanche. And I have Matt Duchene, who played on some not so good Avalanche teams before they trade him away when they were becoming good. So, that'll do it.
Neat.
What do you have on this day?
Yes, I do. I was just about to say, do you want to get all educated?
Oh, you always know that answer. I need to get smarter every day of my life.
On this day in 1893, for the only time in history of U.S. tennis championships, an event is held off the Eastern Seaboard. The men's double championship was held in Chicago.
I should note we had a Facebook comment during the Mount Rushmore section, and I'm just now seeing it, so I apologize. Mother of one of our good friends, Mary Eiler, commented. She said Jorge Posada and Bernie Williams for the Yankees.
Those are good ones too, for sure.
The core four, you can make an argument. You could just do a core four Mount Rushmore, I suppose.
Yeah. On this day in 1956, who won the PGA Championship men's golf at Blue Hill Country Club?
56. Ooh. Well, wasn't Arnold Palmer. He never got that one. Let's go Ben Hogan. I think that's two.
Jack Burke Jr.
No. Yeah.
He had a real good year that year. He also won the Masters.
Wow, I've never heard of the guy. He won 2 majors in 1 year.
Yeah. On this day in 1958, Teddy Williams always has to make an appearance.
Always.
But this is not for a good one. He was fined $250 for spitting at Boston fans again.
Yeah, we don't need those bodily fluids, Teddy. Come on now.
If any fan base deserves to get spit at, it's the Bostons, regardless of sport.
That is true. That is true.
On this day in 1960, who won PGA Championship men's golf?
1960?
It was this guy's only major.
Okay.
So I don't think you're going
to. Just give it to me.
Jay Hebert.
Nope. I knew it was too early for Nicholas, because Nicholas, I think, was still in college then.
Here on 1966 PGA Championship men's golf, it was his only major win. Al Geiberger.
I've never heard of any of these guys. I'm learning, though. I'm learning. That's what this segment's about, learning, educating.
Have you ever heard of Don January?
Nope.
He won his only major on this day in 1967, the PGA Championship men's golf.
What a bad month to be named after.
It is. It's a terrible month, even though it's my birthday. My wife's birthday. But other than that.
Okay, I take it back. I take it back just because of Megan. I said it in spite of you, but I'll take it back now.
Yeah. 1973 MLB All-Star Game MVP was who?
73? Hank Aaron.
Bobby Bonds.
Oh.
On this day, 1978, Billy Martin was a character. He resigned as Yankees manager after one is a born liar, the other a convicted one. A comment about George Steinbrenner and Reggie Jackson.
That dude was Yankee manager like a million times, got fired a million times. Also got fired at other places he was at.
Yeah. That's a pretty legendary quote. On this day in 1983 was the Pine Tar game. 40 years ago today, George Brett's homer was disallowed against the Yankees. It's pretty legendary. On this day in 1993, New York Met Anthony Young loses his record 27th straight game. It's a bad stretch.
That is just horrendous.
Who won the Tour de France on this day in 2005?
Lance Armstrong?
There was no winner. Trick question. Lance Armstrong retires after winning a record 7th consecutive victory, but it was disqualified in 2012 for doping.
He still won it.
I
can only name you him and Floyd Landis. I can't even name you any other cyclists.
Yeah. Who won? Oh, that's Senior Open. That would have been a little tougher. That is gonna do it.
And that
association. There's a pretty good one this week.
On this day, you mean?
That's what I mean. What did I say?
Yes.
Word association.
Word association. Yeah.
My
Which is
apologies.
which is coming a little later in the episode. But that is the On This Day segment, which is brought to you by, like it is every week, Mooney Woodcrafts. Mooney Woodcrafts is a veteran-owned and operated woodcraft shop based out of North Carolina with Indiana grassroots. They provide 100% hand-cut custom designs that fit your needs, and their pieces are a great addition to any home, office, or man cave. You don't have to take my word for it. You can see some of their recently completed projects by visiting them on Instagram and Facebook. At Mooney Woodcrafts is their handle on there. And if you let them know that Tan and J-Man Show sent you, you get 15% off your sign order. So get those sign orders in, no matter if it's sports related, military related, family related, whatever it is, that can get done for you. Let them know the Tan and J-Man Show sent you.
You want to talk some baseball here real quick before we get into the Big 12?
Yeah, I might hit on the Open Championship if we get a chance at the end. If not, pretty boring tournament. Kudos to Brian Harmon.
Yeah.
Guy had 2 career wins. I'll just get out of the way right now. I'll make it like 2 minutes. 2 career wins going into the weekend. He had a five-stroke lead going on Saturday. You were at the John Deere, yes. He hadn't won in 6 years. I thought he would fold going into Saturday, and he had a bogey, 2 bogeys the first 4 holes on Saturday. Lead got down to 2, but then by the end of Saturday, he had it back up to 5, and he ended up winning by 6. Once in a while, like I was telling you before we started recording, we'll see a dud of a major where somebody just kind of blows the field away, and it's pretty boring throughout the week. But usually it's by a top 10 or top 20 player in the world, not a Brian Harmon. But here we are. Mm-hmm. Like you said in our group text message, another first-time major winner that's not Ricky Fowler, which Ricky tied for 23, had some good moments, but also had some ugly moments over there. But the major championships are done for golf, so now it's the FedEx Cup Championship and then the Ryder Cup. So those are the 2 main big things remaining. Yeah. So we went a decade without Rory McIlroy win a major championship.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
When I checked yesterday, he was tied for second. It was pretty early, but he was still like 6 strokes back or some 5 strokes back. Where did he end up?
He made a run, but in the end, he tied for 6th. There was a 4-way tie for second. Seb Straka, Jason Day, Tom Kim, and John Rahm all tied for second. But like I said, they were 7 under, and Brian Harmon was 13 under. So Tom Kim had the best round of the day yesterday at 4 under par. The weather was really nasty yesterday.
Is it the PGA that was moved to May?
Yes. Yep. It used to be the last one in the rotation. Yep.
Yeah. Do you wish it was back in August or whenever so you'd have another major to look forward to?
I do. But it's also nice to get one every month for 4 straight months. Yeah. So. And then you get the FedEx Cup, which is big, and that's what they asked Rory if he's going to dwell on not winning a major during that last decade. What's he going to say? Oh yeah, he said no. I still have won 3 FedEx Cups, and I'm trying to aim for my 4th this year. Which I still think eventually he's going to knock that door down and get another major. But it is just wild. If you would have told me when the PGA Championship ended in 2014 in Valhalla that he was going to go a decade without winning one, I would have said, you're absolutely out of your mind. I said, he's not going to win just one. He's going to win 2, 3, or 4 more in a decade. And here we are. He didn't win any. So the younger golfers are getting better and better. It's harder and harder to win one. So,
yeah.
Yep. Now we can talk baseball.
Baseball real quick before we talk some Big 12. Trade deadline is a week from tomorrow. So we've already seen a little bit of action. Not a whole lot. Braves made a trade for a reliever with the Rockies today. Pierce Johnson going to Atlanta, former Chicago Cub. Great Pierce Johnson, I should say. He has an ERA of about 6, but that's pretty average for a Colorado Rocky pitcher at this point of the year. But Cubs been playing some pretty good baseball. I think I said last week it's a must sweep series against the Nationals. Well, of course they laid an egg on Monday. Still ended up 5-2 over the week, taking 3 of 4 from the St. Louis Cardinals over the weekend, and they find themselves coming into the show today 5 back of a wild card spot. So they are still kind of in the thick of things. Cody Bellinger has been on an absolute heater, and he has been the best hitter in all of baseball in the month of July, believe it or not, and really since he came back from the injured list on June 24th. Since June 24th, Cody Bellinger is hitting 446 with a 475 on base percentage, a 728 slugging percentage. And this month alone, he is hitting 457 with 6 homers. He had 238 weighted runs created plus, 5th lowest strikeout rate in all of baseball this month. So I tweeted yesterday, if Cody Bellinger is traded within the next 9 days, I will burn Wrigley Field to the ground. Obviously, I'm not going to be burning Wrigley Field to the ground. However, I think it would be asinine and set this franchise back. You need to keep him. You need to try to sign him.
Jed. Don't put it past Jed.
Need to sign him. I'm just getting mad thinking about it, Tanner. Need to sign him in the offseason. He's 27 years old. This dude is entering his prime. It seems like he's completely back from his bad couple years post MVP. He is perfect for Wrigley Field. He is an above average defensive center fielder and above average defensive first baseman. They're looking for both of those guys right now, a center fielder and a first baseman. 27 years old, as I said, turns 28 this year. He is turning back into a superstar, and you could build around this guy. He's a rental bat, so the price tag or the price guys will be willing to give up for him at the deadline is not going to be as much as you want it to be. So you are better off just keeping him, trying to make a run at a postseason spot. They're still kind of in the thick of things. Their schedule, they have the easiest schedule in the National League. In the second half, they have, I think, 6 head-to-head games against the Reds, 6 or 7 against the Reds, 6 or 7 against the Brewers. So you have opportunities to make up this ground here, and it would be the worst possible thing to trade a Cody Bellinger or a Marcus Stroman. You need to buy at the deadline if you want any hope of competing next year. You have to do this, but I think Jed's too much of a wuss to even attempt it, because he doesn't like to take any sort of chance. So he's going to set them back another couple years by trading these guys away. And I will be furious. I will be absolutely beside myself if they trade some of these guys away.
I and the ISC Sports Network both appreciate you censoring yourself a little bit, so the FCC didn't get mad.
Yeah. But as I said, Cubs have played some pretty good baseball since the All-Star break. They are literally leading Major League Baseball in weighted on base average, 370. So they're getting on base a ton, scoring a bunch of runs. Their pitching's been okay since the All-Star break. Jameson Taillon's kind of turned things around. Since the All-Star break, he's made 3 starts, 1.86 ERA. It looks like the Jameson Taillon they were signing coming into the year. So hopefully this is a turning point. They're still 3 games under 500, but again, they're kind of right there, because the other teams ahead of them, at least the wild card go, the Reds are still playing pretty well. But the Marlins, Phillies, Giants, and Diamondbacks have all really struggled here the past few weeks or so. And the Cubs have the best run differential of the teams vying for a wild card spot. That includes the Reds, D-backs, Giants, Phillies, Marlins, Padres, Mets, all these teams. So they're still in it. They have to continue winning games. They have 2 series against bad teams this year. They are on the road at the Chicago White Sox, which that's never easy, and then at St. Louis, which is, again, never easy. And I'm hoping the St. Louis Cardinals start their tearing down and selling here before that series, so they can kind of go in with maybe a couple easy wins. They need to go at least 4-2 this week. Get 1 game under 500. I think that will force Jed's hand to keep these guys and try to make a run. They have obviously a lot of holes. They need first, third baseman, a DH. They need probably another starting pitcher. They need bullpen help. So, and they have a gluttony of prospects, and in their minor league system, they have a ton of depth. So they can trade from this depth that are blocked to kind of go and improve their roster and kind of make a run, because I think they're capable of doing it. They just have to continue winning, and hopefully Bellinger continue his hot stretch. And Nico Horner's been better. Dansby Swanson's back, and he's playing pretty well. Seiya Suzuki's been good since the All-Star break. Ian Happ's been okay since the break. So hopefully they can kind of keep her together and start chipping away a little bit. But elsewhere around baseball, as I said, Reds have been playing pretty well. They're a half game behind the Brewers. Brewers have been playing well. Dodgers are separating themselves a little bit in the NL West, 4 games up. Braves, you might as well just clinch now. They're 11.5 up on the Phillies and the Marlins. That one's over. The Baltimore Orioles have overtaken the Tampa Bay Rays, who are under 500 since the middle of May. And Baltimore has the best record in the American League, believe it or not, at 61-38, and they are for sure buyers need to go out and get pitching. But that offense is dynamite. The Tampa Bay Rays have played, as I said, they have not played that well since May, but they're still a really good roster, and they'll be buyers at the deadline. Toronto Blue Jays are still hanging around, 10 games over 500. And then the Red Sox and Yankees are tied for fourth or tied for last. You can look at it that way too. 8.5 games back. Who knows if Judge will be back anytime soon. Yankees have a lot of holes, especially offensively. AL Central, the Minnesota Twins are starting to play a little better. 5 games over 500, 3 games up on Cleveland. Detroit's hanging in there, 7 back. White Sox are done, 12 back. The Kansas City Royals are 28-73. That is embarrassing. They need to tear Kauffman Stadium down and start all over.
Probably would if they didn't win a World Series within the last decade.
Yeah. The AL West, Texas Rangers are still playing pretty well. 18 games over 500. Astros are hot on their trail. 3 games back, 12 games over. Angels have played some good baseball, but they're 8 games out of the AL West, and they are 4 games out of a wild card spot. The biggest storyline this week over the next 8 days will be, is Shohei Ohtani going to be traded? And this will be the J-Man's Bucket prediction of the week. I think Shohei Ohtani will be traded between now and next Monday. As far as teams go, I don't think the Angels will. The Angels obviously won't trade him in division. I don't think they'll trade him to the LA Dodgers. The team to look out for, and I think I mentioned this last week, is the Tampa Bay Rays. They could use top of the rotation starter and an elite bat in the middle of their lineup. Because I read that the Tampa Bay thinks this is the best roster they've ever assembled, and they are going to go hard for a World Series championship. And trading for the best player in baseball will definitely help in their pursuit of that. So I think Shohei gets traded. J-Man's Book of Prediction Week brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance Agent Travis Watching for life, home, auto, business, renters, workers' comp, and farm insurance. Contact Travis at 219-869-4561. His email is travis.watching@infb.com. Seattle Mariners have been disappointing. They're only 1 game over 500, but Jerry DiPoto there, he likes to wheel and deal, so I bet they have a surprise or 2 up their sleeve heading into the trade deadline. And then the Oakland Athletics, just a half game worse than the terrible Kansas City Royals at 28-74. And I don't think either of those teams win 50 games this year. And that is embarrassing. They should be honestly, they should do what they do for soccer over in Europe, where you get relegated to AAA and you call up one of the best AAA. I know that doesn't work here in this scenario, but that'd make it so teams don't tank. They got to do something, because that's just pathetic.
Yeah,
absolutely pathetic. But trade deadline's almost here. It seems like the season just started. And now we got the Hall of Fame game for football next week. We have the trade deadline coming up. So
media days for college football going on.
Yeah. So we are hitting the dog days of summer, and fall will be here before we know it.
Well, we are previewing the Big 12 tonight. Before we get into that, I have some Big 12 related word association I thought we'd fly through. So I thought let's start with the 4 new incoming teams to the Big 12 this year. I cannot talk. I did 1 player for every Big 12 team. So we'll start with one of the new ones, Cincinnati Bearcats, Travis Kelce.
You could venture to say he is already a top 3 tight end in the NFL history. And he might end up being the best one of the bunch. He's probably the best receiving tight end we've ever seen. And I know you don't like him, but I find him pretty likable.
Can't stand him, but he's a heck of a player. Heck of a player. I cannot rip his on the field play. So
yeah.
Houston, Case Keenum.
Case Keesum, as Johnny Elway likes to say.
That worked out well.
Yeah. He's going to be, obviously he's the all-time touchdown leader in college football history for passing. So he'll be known for that, but his miracle season, fluke season in Minnesota, and of course the miracle, what do they call that? The
Minneapolis Miracle.
Minneapolis Miracle. That makes sense. He'll definitely be known for that in the NFL, but I mean, he's hung around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a backup on the we just talked about Texans again.
Houston. Yeah.
Yep. BYU, Brigham Young University, Taysom Hill.
Probably the most overrated player I can remember, just because he played a bunch of positions. He could play special teams. He could play tight end. He could play quarterback. He could play wide receiver. Sean Payton loved him. I'm surprised he hasn't made it. I'm surprised he hasn't traded a first-round pick for him, to be honest. There in Denver.
Don't even get that started.
He hasn't done anything yet. The NFL loves him, and they put when he was a restricted free agent, I think they put a first-round tender on him, which no one was going to touch that. No one was going to touch a fifth-round tender on this son of a gun. But Sean Payton sure loved him.
At UCF, your favorite Miami Dolphin of all time, Dante Culpepper.
Dante, I knew that was coming. Set the franchise back. They haven't recovered. They literally have not recovered since old Nick Saban decided to choose a different quarterback than he should have. Dante, I thought was pretty overrated to begin with. Not back then, but looking back, that dude threw a lot of interceptions, and he just pretty much threw it as far as he could and hope Randy Moss caught it. That was pretty much his strategy. He wasn't that good of a quarterback at all.
TCU, Texas Christian University, LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, one of the greatest running backs of this generation, for sure. He could catch, he could run, and he could pass. Threw a couple touchdowns in his career. He had that iconic little celebration he did after scoring a touchdown that I always tried to emulate when I was scoring many touchdowns in your backyard.
Countless. Can't count them all. Kansas State, Darren Sproles.
Short little fella. Great punt, kick returner, could catch the ball out of the backfield. Could do it all. I mean, he was fun to watch, and he hung around for a long time for a guy as small as he was.
Yep. Oklahoma, Sam Bradford.
I wouldn't call him a bust. He made a lot of money for not really being all that productive. He had some injury issues, put in a bad situation there in St. Louis with the Rams, but great college guy, obviously.
Texas, Vince Young.
Oh, one of the greatest, probably the greatest national championship game I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Legendary performance, and it just didn't work out very well in the NFL.
Texas Tech, Michael Crabtree.
I'll never forget that game. I forget who they were playing. Under the lights, Graham Harrell was the quarterback.
They were playing Texas.
Was it Texas?
Yeah.
He caught that ball and walked in with about 4 seconds left to win it.
Mm-hmm. Game day was there.
He had a long NFL career, too. He had a pretty good NFL career.
Baylor, Robert Griffin III.
What could have been? That entire draft class, you look at it, it was an interesting one. I mean, Andrew Luck retires early. RG3 blows out his knee. Tannehill was starting to come on and look like a really good NFL quarterback. He blows out his knee. Then you have old Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins there in the third, fourth round, and they're probably the two best of the bunch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kansas, Aqib Talib.
It's about the only Well, Chris Harris played there too, I guess.
Yeah, same team for a year. Yeah.
A lot of interceptions, dirty, trash talker. He was the epitome of cornerback.
Yes, 100%. Oklahoma State, Barry Sanders.
Oh man, he was on some bad Lions teams that somehow made the playoffs. They always said we'd only put 4 linemen out there and just hope Barry missed the other guy. That's pretty much what they did.
2 more. Iowa State, Brock Purdy.
He had his fun in the sun, and I don't think he'll ever be able to replicate what he did last
I don't
year.
either.
He's put in a pretty perfect situation for him.
In West Virginia, Geno Smith.
Geno, man, he parlayed that really good 1 year of his career into a pretty good payday, and I don't think he'll be able to replicate that this year.
I don't either. I don't either.
It's a good list.
All right, 10 minutes left. Big 12 conference preview time. The last year, Oklahoma and Texas are in the Big 12, so this year's 14 teams with the addition of UCF, BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati. Next year it goes back to 12 with Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. But let's start off. I am guessing you have the same conference champion prediction that I do. Go for it.
I have Texas.
I have the Longhorns as well.
Quinn Ewers is there. They obviously lost a lot in Bijan Robinson, but Quinn Ewers is one of the top probably 10 guys for the Heisman right now. They have Arch Manning as well. I wonder how much he'll be able to play. He might only do the four game thing and then redshirt.
Their QB room stacked. All four of them stacked. They lost Hudson Card, who transferred to Purdue. But big year for Steve Sarkisian, though, because I think they have to produce this year.
Yeah, if they don't, I mean, they get restless there.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious.
An interesting name to keep an eye on. You talked about Bijan Robinson losing them in the first round of the Falcons. They have 3 or 4 running backs who will probably see action. Watch for C.J. Baxter. He was the number 1 rated running back in the country last year in high school. So watch for him.
Yeah.
Watch for him. Let's see here. Number 2.
I have Kansas State.
I do too.
Quarterback Will Howard returns. They got transfer running back from Florida State, Treshaun Ward. They were good last year, and their head coach, who was, I believe he was at North Dakota State, Kleinman, is that his name?
Yep, Kleinman.
I think he's going to turn them into a really good program again.
Yeah, Will Howard looks like it's going to be their quarterback. Adrian Martinez was last year. He's finally out of college football.
Yeah, Will Howard actually ended up playing more than Adrian Martinez because Martinez
towards the end of the year, five games, so he's got some experience. They lost Deuce Vaughn and another pass rusher in the first round. People forget they won the Big 12 championship game last year over TCU.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Number 3.
I have Oklahoma.
I do as well.
It was their first season under 500 since 1998. Venables there. He's if they go under 500 again, I wouldn't be surprised if he's 2-0.
Oh, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel's back. He threw 25 touchdowns last year. Should be able to put up some points. And you would assume Venables would have a really good defense, although they were not good last year.
They gave up 30 points per game last year, including a 49-0 loss in the Red River shootout against Texas. Defense has got to be better. They got to figure out who's going to be their offensive production. They lost Marvin Mims to the NFL. Javante Barnes and Gavin Stuchuk are their 2 running backs who'll see action. So, Number 4 for you.
I have Texas Christian.
I think we're just copying each other at this point.
They lost a lot on offense, but they got a lot back on defense. I'm not sure who the projected quarterback is, but
Chandler Morris.
They should be fairly solid.
Yep, Sonny Dykes, unbelievable job there, national runner-up. Yeah. Max Duggan gone. Chandler Morris is going to be their quarterback, but they did lose their top 2 leading rushers, 3 wide receivers, and some starting linemen, so a lot to replace on offense. But their defense should be really good, led by Johnny Hodges and Josh Newton, linebacker and cornerback. Number 5.
Oklahoma State.
We finally differ. I have Texas Tech.
Yeah, they went 7-6 last year. Transfer from Michigan, Alan Bowman, who's been around for a while now. Quarterback.
Yeah, he was formerly at Michigan and Texas Tech. Gundy has not had a losing season at Oklahoma State since he took over in 2005. They do have a rough schedule, they have an easy schedule. I have on my notes, but defense is a big question mark. They lost a lot of defense. Yeah. And I have Oklahoma State. I have them at 9, actually. Oh, 5th for me, I have Texas Tech. They're always going to put up points. Jerry McGuines is their coach. They went 8-5 last year. They have 14 starters back. Tyler Shucks, their quarterback. Their defense returned 6 starters. They led the Big 12 in sacks last year. And they were ninth in red zone defense in the country. So if they can replicate that with what they do on offense, they should be right in the mix again.
Yeah, I have Texas Tech 6th, so I'm not too far off. A lot of their starting offense returned. So
I have UCF, a brand new one in the conference. Gus Malzahn, pretty good coach there. John Ray's Plumlee's their quarterback, who's been there a couple of years. They do have a new defensive coordinator in Addison Williams, as Travis Williams left for Arkansas. They do have a tough schedule on the road, though. They're at Boise State in a non-con, at Kansas State, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech within the conference. But if they can get two of those, they could be right in the mix.
I have UCF 9. John Reese Plumlee, as you said, saw a cool video with him back in the spring. He's on UCF's baseball team. He's one of their better baseball players. Played a baseball game, left about mid-game to go play in the spring game, and threw a few touchdowns. So
That's pretty cool.
Was pretty cool. So I have them 9th. I have Baylor 7th.
I do as well.
They went 6-7 last year. They got a lot back on offense, and they'll always be able to score some points.
Yeah, they have a quarterback competition going on between Blake Shappen and Sawyer Robertson, who transferred from Mississippi State. Their defense allowed 26.8 points per game this year, so they could not replicate 2021. Got a brand new defensive coordinator, actually, Matt Polidge, and they only returned one starter in the secondary, though. That could be a good thing with their defense not being as good last year. I don't know. Time will tell. Time will tell.
I have Kansas 8th.
I do as well.
Jalen Daniels, preseason Big Ten Player of the Year. Great Friday night matchup between two usually terrible programs. And Illinois plays at Kansas. I think week 2 or week 3, something like that. Of course, when they scheduled the game, like, oh, that's an easy win. And now, of course, that Kansas is halfway decent. That's typical Illinois luck.
Lance Leipold, 6-7 year last year after going 2-10 the previous year. Got a big contract extension. They returned more offensive production than any team in the FBS. 10 offense starters back, and the one starter that they lost was a offensive lineman. They got Logan Brown, offensive tackle, transfer from Wisconsin, former 5-star. So that'll do.
Dang, yeah. As I said, I have UCF 9.
I have Oklahoma State.
I have Iowa State 10.
I do as well.
Much like David Shaw, Matt Campbell should have left when he had the chance, because I don't think they'll be very good.
4-8 last year. They have who is their quarterback is Hunter Deckers. His first losing season last year since 2016. Defense should be good, very experienced. New offense coordinator Nathan Shieldhouse. And he's replacing Tom Manning. And they need to limit turnovers. They had 23 turnovers last year.
Dang.
Yeah.
I have BYU 11th.
I do too.
I haven't even wrote any notes down for these final 4 teams.
Kalane Sitake, I think is how you pronounce their coach's name. Kendon Slovis is their quarterback, former Pitt and USC quarterback. New defensive coordinator Jay Hill. And they do have a good transfer running back from Louisville, Aiden Robbins, to keep an eye on.
I have Houston 12th.
I do as well.
Dana Holgerson against West Virginia. If they play, I don't even know if they play this year. Could be interesting.
It went 8-5 last year after a 12-2 year the previous, so kind of a letdown. Texas Tech transfer quarterback Devin Smith or sophomore Lucas Coley will be their quarterback. Defense gave up 32.2 points per game, which is 112th nationally. Projected starting running back transferred in the spring to Colorado, so they're not sure who the running back's going to be. A lot of questions to be answered there down in Houston.
I have Cincinnati 13th.
I have West Virginia, and then I have Cincinnati last.
I have West Virginia 14th. I'm not even going to talk about West Virginia. Cincinnati, obviously losing their entire coaching staff and recruits and stuff. It'll be a transition year for them.
Their defense should be good, but Scott Satterfield's got a bunch of new faces on offense. Arizona State transfer quarterbacks Emory Jones. And then West Virginia, I think Neil Brown has to produce this year or he's going to lose his job. 5-7 last year. He's 14-21 in Big Ten play. Their quarterback's either going to be Garrett Green or
not Big Ten play.
Big 12 play. Garrett Green looks like he's going to be their quarterback. They returned all their offensive line and 3 running backs, so that should help. But their defense gave up 32.9 points per game, including 262.7 pass yards per game. Not good there in Morgantown.
Yeah. We're out of time, so
we are.
I will give you the Birdie Bogey real quick. Shohei Ohtani became the 5th player since 2000 with 35 homers in their team's first 95 games. 4 other players have done this. Who are those 4 players?
Barry Bonds?
Yep.
Luis Gonzalez?
Yep.
So, I get one more to get a par. Oh, shoot. forget your clues earlier, darn it. McGuire?
Nope. One more shot for a par there, T-Dog.
I'm blanking, so I'm going to get a stupid bogey. I'm going with Aaron Judge.
You got it.
Oh, God.
I didn't think you'd get Luis Gonzalez. I thought you'd get Judge and Bonds. And the other guy's Chris Davis. That would have been a tough one.
No. I'm happy with the par. Staying one stroke back. I'm happy with that.
Thanks for watching the Tan and J-Man show. We will have our Pac-12 preview next week.
Pac-12 after dark.
Fantastic week, everybody.